Good evening, folks. Freddie Vasquez with your Basement Politics Rush Hour report. Today I want to talk about Yonkers Tribune in an article that was written by the Yonkers Times, Dan Murphy. Also, Yonkers rising. Is the city of Yonkers really on the rise? Or are we headed toward these 15-minute cities that's being talked about by a lot of people now? Let's talk about it. I'm Freddie Vasquez. This is Basement Politics. Guess who's back to work today, folks? People are back to work. Summer is pretty much over. Well, we have about 2 weeks left, but it's over, folks. El verano se acabó. I'm Freddie Vasquez. This is Basement Politics or Filter. Good evening, folks. I want to shout out all of the Yonkers Public School administrators that went in today. They were over at the Castle Royale for their orientation. So shout out to all of you. I wish you the best of luck this year. May you have a great year, school year coming up. All right. I want everyone to be good and happy. All right. I'm all about positivity unless people want otherwise. Right. So shout out to you folks, the Yonkers Public School administrators. That's the, principals, assistant principals, superintendents, assistant superintendents. We're all at the Castle Royale today for the orientation. They go back, earlier than the teachers. This is about 2 weeks earlier than the teachers. So, teachers, some of them probably don't ever want to be administrators, right? Teachers, you're like, I'll be a teacher. I'm good with that. I'm making good money anyway as a teacher. So why would I want, the extra responsibilities? I have to go into work 2 weeks earlier. So, since my wife has been an administrator, we haven't been doing the end of the year thing because of it, but that's cool. She loves her job. And also the little projects and all that. But so shout out to you folks. The teachers will be going in closer to when the school year actually begins. Right now, the administrators are just in. They went to the Castle Royale for their orientation. And then now I think they're going to break off into their schools tomorrow. And they're going to get to know each other, and plan for the school year. They are the leaders of the school buildings. And so they have to, get things going right away. So shout out to you again. I wish truly and genuinely all the best of luck and hope that you all have a great year. That's what we want, and as well as the students. Moving on, Yonkers Tribune again, and Keith Olson. This time, Dan Murphy writing about it, and he got a quote from Keith Olson. And look, I've received a lot of information from a lot of different people. None of it has ever been about Keith Olson at all. So I gotta say, I can't, disagree with people who say he's a good man because I've never had information to the contrary. So I have to agree with it. And, now that Hezi has retracted what he wrote, whether you believe it to be truthful or just as part of the settlement, and he has to do it, he's doing it, right? And there's no other information that contradicts, what Keith Olson was saying all along, and John Mueller and Brian Moran and, whoever else was being written about in the Blue Truth, right? Hezi, was writing about it. He said he has sources. And, I was reading the article. It was sources were Ray Montero and former Commissioner Charles Gardner. Excuse me while I answer this important text. So I was surprised. I knew Ray Montero. I had heard his name being brought up in this. But when I read that it was also Charles Gardner, the former Yonkers police commissioner, I was surprised because from what I was told about him, he was, very good commissioner. He did a lot of great things. He really changed the Yonkers Police Department and the culture within the department, especially after the DOJ was involved and wanted to take over the Yonkers Police Department. So Keith Olson was, Charles Gardner was named the commissioner. And according to Anthony DiMaggio, you may have seen this. It was supposed to be John Mueller, but then it went with Charles Gardner because of the DOJ investigation or something like that. But anyway, he made a positive transformation. So did he have a grudge? Was he upset? I mean, he got the commissioner position over Mueller, right? So why would he be upset? Was he upset? And so I was very surprised about that. But I want to talk about that. I want to go and read the article, Hezi here, and I want to also talk about the comment that or the statements that were made by Keith Olson. Keith Olson, if you don't know, is the Yonkers PBA president, Police Benevolence Association. Detective Olson has been with the police department for a very long time. And very recently, he won his lawsuit against online blogger Hezi Eris and the Yonkers Tribune. And Hezi had to retract his comments and, state that everything he wrote in his series titled The Blue Truth was false. It was lies provided to him by two sources that were named, Ray Montero and Charles Gardner, the former police commissioner, and that they had grudges, that this was some revenge, some way of getting back at Keith Olson, John Mueller, and Brian Moran. And so he said he made a mistake in trusting these two sources. I mean, is that a mistake? Can you blame the guy? I mean, he's relying on police officers. He's relying on a former police commissioner and a detective in the United States' greatest police force, the Yonkers Police Department, right? Wouldn't we all like to think that police officers are honest, that Charles Gardner is not going to lie about other police officers to a guy like Hezi in the Yonkers Tribune in order to have him print these negative, things about these officers? You wouldn't want to believe that, right? I mean, so what does it say ultimately? I mean, it's still crazy, right? So Keith Olson's been vindicated, but what it tells us is that, police commissioners and detectives, can lie. They'll lie. If they'll lie on their own, right? If they'll lie on police officers, their colleagues, imagine what they'll do to the public. That doesn't make me feel good, right? So that's crazy either way. It's crazy. But, again, shout out to Keith Olson. He's vindicated. I'm sure the guy's gone through a lot, having to deal with these the lawsuits and all that. Listen, nobody wants to be talked about badly, especially when there's no proof to it. So if Hezi is retracting a story, then we have to believe that what he was saying was a lie, and that, Keith Olson is not the guy that he was made out to be. Yonkers blog, and by the way, I'm not getting paid or made to say that. Yonkers blogger Hezi Eris has settled a defamation lawsuit filed against him by 3 Yonkers police officers by admitting that many columns he penned about Yonkers PBA president Detective Keith Olson, former Yonkers Police Commissioner John Mueller, and retired YPD Detective Sergeant Brian Moran were fabrication, lies, and fake news. The full retraction and personal apology from the self-proclaimed acid tongue blogger, is that what he called himself? Hezi Eris, and his Yonkers Tribune website are another embarrassment for the blogger, who used to keep Yonkers elected officials and city employees in fear through his posts and the negative and blasphemous posts he allowed below his stories. As a condition of the settlement, Mr. Eris has agreed to prominently publish his public retraction and apology on the front page of his Yonkers Tribune website for at least 30 days, which he's not complying so far. As further condition of the agreement, Eris must permanently purge all defamatory articles from the website, delete all defamatory and inappropriate comments from the anonymous comments section which followed the articles, and make a donation in an undisclosed amount to the Yonkers-based charity. So they're not getting any money from him, but they want him to make a donation. Okay. From 2013 to 2019, Hezi Eris published a series of articles ironically entitled The Blue Truth. The articles focused almost entirely on false allegations of criminal and unethical acts allegedly committed by Olson, Moran, and then YPD Deputy Chief Mueller. In early 2019, the three plaintiffs filed a multi-count defamation lawsuit in New York State Supreme Court, seeking to hold Eris and the Yonkers Tribune accountable for libelous publications. Almost immediately, attorneys for Mr. Eris, led by noted attorney Michael Sussman, so he took this case on, but he didn't want to listen to the manager, filed a motion to dismiss the lawsuit, claiming, among other things, that it was a SLAPP lawsuit. And SLAPP lawsuit, that's basically lawsuits that are filed against individuals to keep them from speaking the truth. Journalists, or anyone, or whistleblowers and stuff like that. I'm not sure if it says, a professional and what defines a professional journalist. The motion was swiftly denied, of course. Who was the judge? In June 2021, in another victory for the plaintiffs, Supreme Court Justice Joan Lefkowitz ruled that Hezi Eris was not a journalist entitled to the protection of the so-called Journalist Shield Law, and therefore was required to reveal the identities of his claimed sources for the Blue Truth articles. When forced to reveal his sources for these false and defamatory stories, Eris identified longtime source YPD Detective Raymond Montero, Yonkers Police Commissioner Charles Gardner, and others. Who are the others? All sources named by Eris had a long and established history of personal and professional animosity towards the plaintiffs. This week, 1 week before a scheduled August 16th trial date, Eris agreed to plaintiff settlement demands, which require a wholesale retraction of every false allegation published by Eris, as well as an apology to family and friends of the three plaintiffs for the pain caused by the reckless publications of these untrue criminal allegations. And so this is what Detective Keith Olson said. I just want to read his quote. This is important and groundbreaking victory, not only for John Mueller, Brian Moran, and I, but for anyone else who's fallen victim to unscrupulous and irresponsible bloggers disguised as journalists. So I'm one of these victims, Brian. I'm sorry, Keith, and I'll tell you in a minute. Far too many of these internet bullies feel it is safe to make false, baseless, defamatory claims against people without fear of repercussions. This victory shows that the truth matters and that lies have consequences. This is also a signal to cowards with personal vendettas who feel safe feeding false accusations to these bloggers, thinking they are shielded by anonymity. You are not. The truth always prevails. Detective Keith Olson. Right. So, look, I'm a victim too, Keith. I'm a victim too, Keith. I hear you, brother. I hear you. Internet bullies. My wife, Keith, knows all that too well. I think you're married, right? I'm not 100%. I just say I think you're married. Imagine someone going after your wife consistently, someone that you never even had an issue with to begin with. It's not like he's an elected official, but he has one of these Yonkers Tribune type of news sites, right? And he has a lot of followers, way more than Basement Politics, And he's utilized this to attack your wife. And the guy has even told you on more than one occasions that he was doing it on behalf of elected officials. That's what he said. Oh, it's always the truth, Keith. And I can let you hear the audio, and everybody will when we go to court, that he said this. He said elected officials wanted me to attack you and your business. That's what the Yonkers Voice told me. And then we went to Paxil. So yes, I know this too well because that's what he and Brian Harrod have done since and attacked my wife. Keith Olson, imagine having a picture of your wife posted on the internet, right, with a dildo to her mouth. No disrespect, Keith. I'm just saying this is what happened to my wife, right? And then they posted in front of let's say in front of the precinct you worked at, right? What would you do? How would you feel? How would you feel? Especially when it was done by someone you don't even know, because I didn't even know Brian until he posted my kids' And I went to his house and he called the cops. That's the first time I ever met him. But again, they're doing it on behalf of elected officials. And Keith, you know, this is not the first time that this has happened. You're not the first person to be attacked like this. Neither am I. This is an MO of these internet bullies. You're right. But it doesn't stop at the Yonkers Tribune, Keith. And this is what I got to say about your comment. Your comment can only be completely legitimized if you condemn the Yonkers Voice and the Yonkers Newswire as well, who have attacked families here in the city of Yonkers in the most disgusting way. They top the cake. I mean, they make Hezi look like, you know, preschool stuff compared to what Brian Harrod of the Yonkers Newswire and Yonkers Voice has done to people here. And not people who work for the city, who are well known, not elected officials, but to just average people. And they continue to do it, and they have not been condemned. And what makes it worse, Detective Olson, is that they are actually paid by elected officials and the city of Yonkers. So they fund these individuals. And what makes it worse, even more so, Detective Olson, is that the Yonkers Voice is run and managed by a man who was charged with sexually abusing a child. He pled down, so he's not in the registry. He was facing 7 to 14 years, so he pled down, but he still sexually assaulted a young girl. He forced himself on her, kissing and touching her. Unwanted, moves. She ran home crying, and now this man runs a Yonkers Voice that does the same thing as the Yonkers Newswire. So, Keith, Detective Olson, you're right. We have to condemn all these garbage internet bullies, all of them, and we have to tell our elected officials, you can't fund these internet bullies because they're paying them to run their campaign ads, to do interviews. And then they also pay them to attack people. I mean, that's what the Yonkers Voice, Brian Ruros, whatever, was recorded by me saying. They wanted the elected officials. So who do you think started this, Detective Olson? We have to go all the way. It can't stop here. We have to condemn it from where it starts. We have to get to the root of the problem. Because this is the issue with the city of Yonkers and its politics and these so-called news outlets. They all attack people. And so when Freddie Vasquez has done what I've done, I'm not saying I am a victim. My wife is a victim, but you know what? I'm not a victim. And I shot back, Keith. That's the difference. I shot back through my podcast, and they didn't like it. And I'm more aggressive with it in terms of not physically, not verbally, but I don't have a fear of going to Tasha Diaz and her food line to see what's going on there and catching them loading boxes into their cars. There was another guy there with a Honda. He was loading boxes too. Was he bringing it to Father Finnan, whatever Finnan? I'm sorry, I don't know how to say his name, right? No. So that's why not many people are going to do that. So then what do, Detective Olson? They utilize the Yonkers Voice and the Yonkers Newswire, not to even attack me, but to attack my wife, who has nothing to do with anything, never said anything bad about any of them, who goes in, who's very selfless with herself and gives her time to Yonkers public school students, never asking for an extra dime. And they go so hard in attacking her. So we must condemn all of them, Detective Olson, not just the Yonkers Tribune. Maybe he got it wrong and he was fed the wrong information and he should have verified it, and that was his mistake, and he deserves to give you an apology. I agree. Because if he can't prove it and he's going to admit that he was lied to, if he's not going to stand by his word, because I'm going to always stand by what I said. I'm going to always stand by it. If he's not willing to, then he's wrong, and I see it that way, and you deserve an apology. But he is nothing He's a cakewalk compared to what the Yonkers Newswire and the Yonkers Voice has done to not just me, but to a lot of other people. And this was started by elected officials. This is what they do. So we must condemn it all. And, Detective Olson, you being a police officer, I will tell you, they have not just limited their attacks on my family to these pages. They have actually sent people to my house on more than one occasion. I've caught them, and then the dummies still, after being caught, go and post the pictures that they were taking of me and my front of my house on the internet, on their sites. And then they post my address, endangering my family, Detective Olson. And I haven't gotten a call from the Yonkers Police Department about it, but they have called me about or emailed me about things that I've said about a party that me and David Tubiolo was at. So I know they watch. So you see, we can't half step. And it can't be just when it happens to me. And I say all this with all due respect. But I'm fed up with it also. And since nobody was helping me, because I went to the DA, I went to the police. They do this. This is what they do. And so you get fed up and you get tired and you take matters into your own hands. And so that's what I've done. Right? So I have to, agree with you, but also I had to add to it, Detective Olson, because we cannot just stop at the Yonkers Tribune. Again, I believe he thought he was doing the right thing, but he was being lied to. And look who he was being lied to, by a former police commissioner who was highly praised, who still is, who they say is responsible for turning the police department around, and another detective. So, you got to understand that his information, he believed, was coming from reliable sources, police officers who we, the population, rely on to be honest. More honest than the average person, at least. That's what we like to believe, right? So you can't, almost be mad at him, right? Because he was trying to be a journalist. We lack this nowadays. We don't have true journalism. Even on the mainstream, they lie all the time. They get it wrong. So now you see more independent journalists who are trying to get it right on a local level, doing it on a national level, right? Talking about national politics. But then you see money come into that also. And when these independent guys start getting paid, they start doing these unscrupulous things, as you say. But intentionally. I don't believe Hezi was doing it intentionally. That's the difference. You got the Yonkers Newswire and Yonkers Voice doing it intentionally, and they're paid to do so. That is why when I was first offered money by City Hall, I turned it down, and I have not made a penny or taken a penny because I didn't want to be compromised or have the appearance of being compromised. Because what I say is truly to try and bring transparency. If I get it wrong, I apologize right away. If I know for a fact it's wrong, I'm not going to drag out a lawsuit. I'm going to tell you right away, and I'm going to correct myself. And, and I have done that. But a lot of my sources have been, very honest, very real, truthful, and they have provided documentation and supporting evidence that I have not posted out of respect for people, because I maintain a level of respect even when I'm being disrespected to all hell. I don't post the things that sometimes I didn't even say names. But they must be true, because when Yonkers Voice was telling people in a private message the things I was saying, he was including the names. I said, I never even mentioned the names, so it must be true, because he knows who the people I was talking about. Right? So we have to condemn them all, Detective Olson. You have to condemn the Yonkers Newswire. You have to tell these city officials, stop funding these guys, because they attack families. They attack innocent women. They don't even attack me, but they attack my wife. So, I get it. I know how you feel. Right? They are internet bullies, and you're right. They are cowards because they hide behind fake pages. And believe it or not, Detective Olson, A lot of times people feeding information are people that work for the city, whether it's truthful or not. Maybe because it's a vendetta, maybe because they want to see things change. A lot of times they're coming from the city employees at all departments. So who are the ones playing the games? What else does that say about the city? Because if, even though has he apologized and he retracted his story, but look where the information's coming from. A former Yonkers police commissioner and a detective, and look where a lot of my information has come from. City employees in all departments, people close to city officials. So then that also says something about our city. And again, we can't just stop here, Detective Olson. We have to go to the root of this problem. And that's all I've ever been trying to do since I started Basement Politics. All right. So shout out to you again for your vindication. Let's keep it moving, Detective Keith Olson. Let's condemn all of them. Let's condemn the most disgusting one, Yonkers Newswire. And let's find out why that guy has 2 free apartments over at Grand Park. Right? Because that's fraud. Right? Especially in a time when we need more affordable housing. A lot of development is going up. Yonkers rising. Does that mean that the city is really improving? We see a lot of developments going up, luxury developments, luxury rentals. Does that mean that we are doing amazing? We are headed in the right direction. Why are we having this economic, or I should say this real estate boom? The economy isn't doing well, and economists are predicting we're going to be in a recession. And we're still at the tail end of a great recession and a pandemic. And people are still building big developments and buying real estate like there's nobody's business. So is it because the economy is doing great, or is it something else? What's really happening? Why is there such an economic, or I should say a real estate boom going on? Not just in Yonkers. It's not unique to Yonkers. This is happening all over the country. And if you've been listening to, World Economic Forum, or you've been on social media, you might have heard this before. 15-minute cities or smart cities. Is Yonkers becoming a 15-minute city? Is that what all the development is all about? Is the city of Yonkers on the forefront of this 15-minute city change that's happening all over the world, actually, not just in this country? What are 15-minute cities? Well, 15-minute city is basically what it says. It will take you no more than 15 minutes to get to anywhere you need to go. And the idea is to keep people from moving too far away from where they live. And so now you have these mixed use developments, which allow for residential, retail space. So you can have everything right there. And it's going to be all electric, all sustainable. But is it really more like small prisons? I mean, we can't go too far. It's going to be all electric. If you break the law, they're going to shut you down. But this isn't a conspiracy theory. This is very real, folks. And at this point, everything that's a conspiracy theory is real, right? At this point. And more people are talking about conspiracy theories nowadays. I mean, I was always into this stuff from a young age. So to hear so many people talking about these things now, right? It's interesting because now there's more people to talk about it. Some more people to engage in these conversations, but not enough people still know, and more need to know what's really going on. We can't just say out of sight, out of mind, continue to going on about our day like nothing is changing in the world, like nothing is changing in our country, like things aren't going to hell, like we aren't truly living through revelation, the end of time, the end days. It's what it seems like. Is Jesus Christ coming back? I don't know, but a lot is happening. Look at the wildfires in Hawaii and the many other wildfires that we've seen. The ones in Canada that made the skies of New York City orange, looking very apocalyptic, right? What is going on? And who are these individuals that are making these decisions, like the World Economic Forum, where their tagline is, "You'll own nothing and be happy." Will you be happy owning nothing? And is that why they're building all rentals everywhere? Because they just want you to rent and own nothing. as these big institutional investors and developers buy up all of the residential properties. It's no longer just commercial. They're buying single family homes now, and they want you to rent. Yes, it's a World Economic Forum agenda. Let's take a look at their video. I mean, again, it's no conspiracy. It's right here. They tell you. And this is very respected. I mean, they lead the world in terms of economic strategy and decisions. Many of the world's leaders have gone through Klaus Schwab, the leader of this of economic forums, schooling of economics and way of thinking. One of them is Trudeau from Canada. He is like a top student. He would be, as you say, a teacher's pet. And so is that why he's been so extreme in what he's done over there in Canada and made it so obvious that they are trying to pretty much enslave the people? Yonkers seems like it's following Paris's lead. As you can see there, it's all about going green, sustainability. And many world leaders are taking to this idea. And so they're completely changing, our society and the landscape. And that's why they're condensing, putting all these developments in such condensed areas. And as you see there, they're trying to reduce the number of parking spaces that are found in cities. We see that here with the developments, right? Developers are getting variances so that way they don't have to put the required number of spaces. Many people have been complaining that it's going to make parking even more difficult as this new building goes up and there's not enough parking in the building for the people that live there. So they're going to have to park in the street, taking up more parking spaces, more people fighting for the few parking spaces on the street. But why are they doing this? Is it because that's a part of the plan to reduce the parking spaces in the city of Yonkers as part of this overall global plan? Kathy Hochul is a big part of it. She's a big supporter of this stuff. So I'm sure that, New York State, not just Yonkers, is going to be changing a lot, or at least they're going to be doing a lot of development. And that's what I've been saying in terms of individuals wanting to capture county politics, because they know there's going to be a lot more developments going on throughout the county. There's going to be more of these 15-minute cities going up, not just here in Yonkers. You're going to see Mount Vernon, and it's going to go all the way up north, right? And they want to build a walking path from the Bronx, maybe, all the way along the Hudson River up to Albany. You can bike and you can walk, and along there you'll pass every single river town where you can stop and enjoy the day. Let's hope we don't get crazy criminals coming in, right? Walking into the town, creating problems, causing crimes, and then walking up out of here to wherever they came from. And so is this about, a true economic boom in the city of Yonkers where people are, earning higher wages, they're getting jobs, so they need more luxury apartments because they want to move on up? Or is this about building a 15-minute city right here in Yonkers? Look at the project they're trying to do over there, the 232 stories on Woodworth. I mean, if you know that area, it doesn't make sense. How can they put these 232-story towers right on the street right here? It doesn't make sense. So city planners aren't planning like they used to anymore. They're planning for these 15-minute cities, putting everything in condensed areas. And so you have to think of the migrant situation and what role does that play? All these residentials going up, perfect that the migrants are here. And now it's perfect that Mayor Eric Adams and others are calling for the federal government to pay for their housing. And not just pay for their housing, but subsidize their housing by a bigger budget, giving each of them a bigger budget than Americans who get their housing subsidized. They're considering paying $100 per day for migrants. What do you think these real estate developers and investors are going to do? They're just drooling at the opportunity to kick out the Americans and bring in migrants. They're going to get twice the amount of rent, and the government's going to pay for it. They're offering people $100 a day if they house a migrant in their home. I mean, people are desperate, and they're going to start taking this opportunity to make money because $100 a day, $3,000 a month. You have a house, your mortgage is $2,500, you cover your mortgage and then some. Give them a room there. But they're not telling you, you have to make sure you have, you speak to your insurance company, because if there's a fire and it starts in the migrant's room especially, you are going to get denied because that's SRO, single room occupancy. You're renting out a room. You can't do that. So will that affect people's insurance policies when they go to make claims? I've seen many fires happen because of this, renting out rooms or illegal apartments, people wiring things up all crazy. Too many people using the outlets and electricity. So it causes problems. But what about the individuals who are being brought into the people's homes? People are desperate. They're going to take the opportunity to make $100 a day. They're going to go and bring in a migrant. I'm not trying to say anything bad here, but I'm just saying, what if the whole family gets slaughtered? What if the children they have there get sexually assaulted? You don't know who you're putting into people's homes. That's crazy. That's crazy. And so that's taxpayer money, folks. $100 a day to house migrants. And I'm all about helping people. I am. Don't get it twisted. People say, oh, it's wrong. We need to help people. Absolutely. But there are so many people here in America that also need help that have not been receiving it. And now we're bringing on a bigger problem, adding it to the already, huge problems we have here in this country. And I don't see anything good coming from it for the Americans or for migrants. I mean, sure, you could say they're getting free housing and a scooter, but really, is that such a great thing? Is that what you want? Would you be happy if the government, paid for your housing somewhere in a motel or a hotel at the Ramada Inn and gave you a scooter? Would that make you happy? So let's not act like they're really getting a whole lot. God knows where they're going to end up in another 5 years. Right? So it's not a good thing for anybody. It's disruptive to our entire planet, in fact. Right. So I'm all about helping people. So, I don't want anyone to take that the wrong way. I'm just saying the impact that it's going to have to our communities, especially minority communities, Black folks and Hispanic folks. It's going to impact our communities. Right. So we have to adjust. They're not going to Scarsdale, Bronxville, Eastchester. Right. None of the elected officials are going to take in a migrant. And in fact, there's a video out there on the internet that a guy going around at one of these, rallies or whatever in support of the migrants. And he goes up to people and says, hey, with a clipboard, says, hey, we're signing people up to take in a migrant. You want to sign up? Now, one person, no, I'm sorry, I can't. No, I can't. I don't have enough money. Oh, I don't have room. But you're out here saying, bring them on in. But you don't want to help house them. You don't want to do your part. You see the craziness of people's mentality these days? Unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. If I bumped into Yonkers' voice, I'm going to ask him in his face why he called me a cult and all this other ish. I can't bet my life he won't say it to my face. The guy, and I don't want to keep, like badmouth, because then people say that I got it. I don't have the only issue I have with him is that he's, been disgusting to me and my family, and he's come after us, admittedly on behalf of elected officials. He said this, and I got him recorded. So if he's going to continue to lie, let him. But it's funny because now he's saying he doesn't remember. At first he was saying, I never said that. I never said that. But now I don't remember. I don't remember. That's what he's saying. How don't you remember? How don't you remember saying that? That's nonsense. Ask John Cater, because he was saying it in his office, copping a plea. I don't remember. You do. And I'm going to remind you when I play the audio, right? So he said that on behalf of elected officials. The guy is a nasty human being. I mean, he's molested children. And he takes money willingly to attack people. And, Tasha Diaz is not innocent. She wants to play victim, but you're not. Right? I don't go around. You're not going to find audio of me threatening to F people up, cursing at people, calling my colleagues a broke B. That's Tasha Diaz. You're not going to see me yelling at, people who are in need of some kind, beggars. You're just not. Yet you can find Tasha Diaz saying all of those things, and she's an elected official, right? So it's not me. They want to make me the bad guy. They want to say, oh, it's Freddie. Look who they're associated with. Elected officials. The man was charged with sexually abusing a child. How can you sit next to him and do business with him? With so much going on in terms of children being sexually assaulted, children being trafficked for sex, a huge thing right now. And you guys are basically supporting that. Okay with that. So you know what? If he can help me out somehow, I'm going to support him. Oh, well, if he molested a girl, who cares about the girl and her family that still live here in the city of Yonkers that probably want to kill that man, right? Who cares about them? I care about myself and using his platform that essentially the city helped build. Yeah. Who got him incorporated? Who got his name trademarked? Who got his company licensed and or incorporated over in Maryland? Who? What does he know about that? He didn't have that before, to a certain time. Interestingly enough. Come on, man. I'm not stupid. I do my homework, man. I come prepared and I make sense and I connect the dots. So if you want to go that route, we're going to go that route. And I'm very confident, not because I'm arrogant, but because you guys are doing what you're doing and you know it. And it's, provable. If you know where to look and who to talk to. It's not hard. It's easy to put two and two together. They do it so much. They've done it to other people. Right? This is what they do. And so the guy's disgusting. You have to see how he talks to people in private messaging. They've sent me them. Many people have. Look, because a lot of people have been defending me on there now, and he goes off on them and he blocks them. Why? I don't block anyone that defends anybody that I may speak about. I didn't block Jeff Meyer. I didn't delete his comments. He deleted them from yesterday. I would have left them on there because I got nothing to hide. He does. He's doing this, folks, because his son, who's a Yonkers police officer, beat up a fireman with his friend. Not by himself, with his friend. I don't want to make the fireman look bad, but they beat him up and possibly stabbed the fireman. His son had to be tased to be arrested and is now on desk duty. And he is hoping and praying and willing to do whatever, including attack my wife, along with Brian Harrod, to get his son out of that predicament. His son should be fired. You're a threat. You're violent. You're willing to pull weapons out on people. You have to be tased in order to be arrested, and you're a cop. And your dad is a pedophile. Why are you here? God forbid, you pass down the genes. I'm just saying. Yeah, I know. Let them know. So I don't have no sympathy. And Detective Keith Olsen, you know, I can sit there and go through a timeline with you and show you how I was the victim. All right. And how we should condemn all these other sites because they're the disgusting one. Basement Politics is the site for the people that have been bullied. They have, the bullies have their websites. They have the Yonkers Newswire. They have the Yonkers Voice, right? And so now the people have Basement Politics. I'm Freddie Vasquez. This is Basement Politics Unfiltered. Have a beautiful day. Don't let no one tell you different. If you see me in the street, say hello to me. Get to know me. I'm interested to hear what you have to say. And if there's something I can help you with, let me know. I will try to see what I could do. But I definitely want to hear from you. Say hello. Get to know Freddie Vasquez, the guy that's going to be out in the community, not going to be chased away. I'm a survivor. I've bounced back from worse. You know? And I'm not scared to say what I got to say. And no, I don't need to lie and make things up. I'm not going to attack people just because. What I speak about is politics, things that need to be told. We need to understand why our majority leader decided to reverse her vote on an important affordable housing ordinance. We must understand why they haven't or have passed certain legislations, or why is it that they're supporting certain projects and not others. We must know what they're doing at all times in order to hold them accountable. And we should not fear being attacked via proxy.
Freddie wins. Fatality. Freddie wins. Fatality.
I'm gonna cook that up.
Freddie wins.
I'm a fatty. I'm Freddie Vasquez, folks. Share the page. Let them know what's up. Shout out to the people who were doing the food distribution at Hawthorne. I wasn't implying that you guys take anything. I was just saying I'd never seen one out there on Hawthorne and coming from, out of a residential home or, usually seeing with the officials, they're at a parking lot or something or a church, right? But I think of the guys that were in Getty Square, and one day I said, shout out to you handing out food out there. So shout out to the people that do it for genuine reasons, right? We understand that there is a need. There is food insecurity. But what confuses me is it possible, to have food insecurities and have, really nice car, 2021, 2022. It's strange when I see a lot of cars lined up like that, people loaded. It's like, I don't know, maybe you do have the food insecurity, but you're not prioritizing correctly. Shout out to Jeffrey Meyer, yesterday's guest on the podcast. If you missed yesterday's podcast, take a look at it. I was joined by Jeff Meyer of Ridgeway Alliance Church, and I believe Feeding Westchester. Do you have a position with Feeding Westchester? By the way, Jeff, the comments that you wrote on the podcast there, they will not go away even if you deleted them. But why did you delete them? Stand by what you say. If you are speaking the truth and you are such a righteous man, stand on what you say. I'm a flawed man, but I'm a man of God. And I will always stand on what I say. And if I'm wrong, I will be the first to apologize. I love you, Yonkers. This is Freddie Vasquez, Basement Politics. Good night.
Freddie wins. Fatality. Freddie wins. Fatality.
No!